Yes. Yes. Welcome also to all the other people online. I forgot to mention that you are definitely not excluded. It's just me with my gray beard, not being too savvy with regards to the technical logistics, electronical logistics, and the digital side of the ecosystem. That really, but by all means, please also online if you have questions, comments, post online. We'll do our best to actually just keep on track and make sure that you get the responses to whatever queries and questions you may have. So yeah, without wasting too much time, please welcome Ms. Pumozo to the floor.
Thank you. Greetings, colleagues. I trust you're well and you're expectant, because I am expectant. I believe we're going to share so much information. I'm going to learn as well, because, yeah, as we interact after the session, doing what we call networking in the business language, that's where we'll learn that we're all here to learn. Firstly, I'd love to introduce myself. It was a struggle for him to pronounce my surname, hence I said, no, I'll just do it myself. He was not going to do justice to my surname, and I hate that. My name is Pumozo Nerubada Shandukani. I'm a Venda woman, born and bred in the dark cities or streets of Venda. I'm a businesswoman by calling. I also went to school to enhance that calling, because calling on its own without some formal training cannot really bring much. And just a brief introduction about myself. I'm not really coming from anywhere that is really out of the ordinary. I'm just an ordinary rural South African girl, if I may call myself that, who really like to give back. When I started my journey, somebody took me and put me on their shoulders. And they've actually taught me so much that today I'm able to navigate in this complicated business space. My story basically begins during the 2000s, after my first tertiary qualification. I have a background of commercial subjects. During my high school days, I did commercial subjects. And I think we were one of those groups that were actually used as guinea pigs, in a sense that commercial subjects in the areas where I'm coming from, it was in the rural Bundu areas. They introduced the commercial subjects, and along the way, I discovered when I was very matured, I was already, working and so on, and I met a teacher who taught me accounting. I met that man at Bosman, and he actually confessed that he had to study a textbook. He did not know accounting, and he was basically dealing with accounting for the first time when he was teaching us. That's why I call my generation guinea pigs, because they were really experimenting through us. But it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. I've learned so much from an early age. And one thing for sure that I've learned is that education really is a weapon that one can rely on during tough days. And I finished my tertiary qualification around 2000, and I joined the job market as is expected by the society to say, after your qualifications, you need to go look for a job. I basically applied for a job at SAPS. I wanted to be a policewoman for some fun reason. So I was shortlisted, and I went to that first interview, my first interview. And it was so awesome. It was so amazing. I ended up being the one who was conducting the interview. And that's when I learned that I think my IQ level is too high to be an employee. And I made a decision at that point that I'm not gonna settle for a, 7 to 4 kind of a job. I did not have an idea though to say what is it that I wanted to do. But the qualification, I basically did BCom in industrial psychology. I also did, during that time, also did human resources management. My focus was on labor relations. Hence, the interest in terms of the police thing and so on. I think that's where it emanated from. But when I passed matric, if I can just go back a bit, when I was asked by my uncle, because I was raised by my mom and my uncle, of course, my mom got divorced when I was still little. So my uncle resumed a role of being my parent, and he was very keen on education. And they sat down with me to say, Pumuzo, what do you want to be when you finish matric? I said, I wanted to be a social worker. I didn't get it from anywhere. We never had career guidance at that time. And then he started taking me off that idea to say, no, you can't do social work. Social work, you won't get promotion faster. His focus was on making it to make more money and to get promotion. I had the calling in me to say I wanted to help people, but I was still young and matured, and I could not really take him on. So he actually defeated me. And he told me that I should register for BCom. And it made sense because already I was doing commercial subjects. So I went to our local university, University of Venda, enrolled for my BCom, but I investigated to say, what is it that I can do that will deal with psychology somehow and so on. That's why I ended up with industrial psychology. I was very good in accounting, business economics, and economics, but I hated math. And the attitude, that's where you will realize that attitude can make you to mess up a lot of things in life. I never believed that I'm good in math. I hated it, and I never wanted anything that was complicated that had math in it. But then I did my BCom, and I used to enjoy a lot the psychology part of it. And, I completed, then the formal education and so on. Then when I was on the job market, that's when I realized that, no, I need to do something that really satisfies my soul, something that makes me to want to wake up in the morning to go make the difference. And one day when I was seated at home, my peers were already employed. My friends were like making it. They were already buying cars, and I was seated at home. I didn't know what to do. But one day when I was seated, I said, but Pumuzo, you can start a business, Mos. And I'm like, okay, fine. I went back to the studies that I did during now it's grade 11, it was standard 9 at that time. In business economics, there was a section where they were teaching us about forms of ownership. I don't know if some of us know that, because that's one thing for sure that I've realized, that business owners or entrepreneurs do not understand that, and that's where they lose a lot of information. Do we all know what forms of ownership are? If I may just check. How many knows forms of ownership? Here amongst us. My colleagues, forms of ownership. Sorry, okay. Trust. Okay. Trust as in... Oh, okay, good. That's a bit of an example, but basically forms of ownership. Oh, okay, yes, ma'am. Sole ownership, which is sole trader or sole proprietor, right? Okay. Now you have an idea. I really wanted us to move together, because the forms of ownership basically is types of businesses, right? And in grade 11 at that time, the textbook that we had was so detailing in a fact that it really capacitated a lot of us to understand the difference of forms of ownership. You would really know how it's formed, characteristics, advantages, and disadvantages. And as you are navigating around the business space, then you were more knowledgeable. And I can tell you that the people who got that background can stand and debate with somebody with an MBA. Because MBA basically is just, you are taught how to, manage, your business, the strategies and stuff like that. And those are the things that you really get on the foundation level. And that's what really emancipated me. And that's what made me to decide to say, I want to start a business. And guess what? When I decided on that, I said, okay, fine, I want to start. I had that edge to say I want to start now. And I decided to go to SARS, our local SARS. I think it was Polokwane at that time. I took a friend along. My friend was already working for SABC. She was a presenter there. And I said, my friend, let's go to SARS and start and register businesses. And then we went to SARS with registered sole traders. I decided to call my business Pumza's General Sales from my name. And my friend was Sharon, and she called hers Masheri General Sales or something like that. We just went there with the ID books because I knew how to start that kind of a business. So when I went to SARS, it was amazing that even SARS personnel did not know that kind of a business. I always went along with my textbook. And I then, when they were refusing to register that business, I said, no, I need your manager. I need your management. And I started to teach them. I had the textbook in hand. And it was so embarrassing for them. I remember the manager there was a Shangan guy. And I said, I'm not here to belittle you, but I've realized that you need to go for training so that you can lead this organization well. That was some years back. And it changed the landscape of understanding of the business around my area at that time. And then they used to refuse people to go register that. Then when I engaged them, then I walked out with my friend with a business registered as a taxpayer, Pumza's General Sales as a taxpayer. And then the legal name, of course, because remember with a sole trader, there is no distinction between the owner and the business. They're one because you operate with your ID number. Unlike with your companies, your close corporations, where you have to have a registration number and so on. So there you decide on a name. You just wake up and say Mashudu, whatever, and you go there as long as you register as a taxpayer. I went, prepared a business profile, went to the bank, opened my business account, and at that time, when you wanted to, trade with government, because my focus and my interest was in government. I never wanted to work with, private, entities. So I started going to the departments, register on their databases, because at that time you'll physically go, get a form, fill it, indicate what your area of specialization is. And guess what? My first business was catering services. The reason was that I made a research, a market research, before I could start that business to say, what is it that can really bring me up speed, with my business, for me to make an impact? What is it that I can do? And I realized that at that time, there were a lot of imbizos that were made. Government was really spending a lot of money on catering. And I said, okay, I'm starting with catering, I can cook. I didn't have to go for training. I just knew that I could cook. And I started there. My mom just gave me a startup capital to start that business. The first catering that I did was catering for the Department of Transport. And there was a premier, our premier at that time, that was in attendance of that event. And guess what? The first project ever was a disaster. I went back with my food because I was late. When I was driving there, there's a lady I know, every one of you may know her. She's an ANC popular woman. She was a minister some years back, Faith Mutambi. I think most of you know her. Faith Mutambi was working for the local municipality where I was catering, and she was a corporate, I think, manager. And she told everyone who was to eat to say, you are not going to eat this because we are not going to pay. And I had to turn back with food. And I negotiated with where I bought the cool drinks and what, even then I took back. Otherwise, along my community, they got free lunches that day because I was going to throw away food. But I learned a big lesson on that encounter. But then what am I saying in my introduction? I then decided to say, if I want to be successful in this endeavor, I need to be different. I need to bring something that nobody can bring along. I really made good relations with the departments, and before I knew it, I think in the first 6 months of my establishment, I was on the top 5 of the catering companies that would be recommended whenever there was a very big event. The catering that we're doing, we're talking about 500 people and above. And at that time, I did not have a car. I would borrow my uncle's car whenever there are those events. And you know, mostly the uncles are very good, but normally they are married to those wives that will not make life easy. So every time when I had to ask my uncle for a car, the wife will deliberately make a trip for me to get the car late. And most of the time I was like driving at a high speed until one day when I was catering at Louis Richard. I stay in Tondo. It's almost 76 kilometers away. And my uncle gave me the car. I was to serve lunch at 12. 12, they said they were having a workshop. It was a Department of Agriculture. And I was told to be there by 12 to set up. My uncle's wife gave me the car at 12. And I was told that that car, I shouldn't drive up to 80 kilometers because from there it will start to vibrate. It had some issues. And I said, God, okay. So my uncle, my big uncle, the firstborn in their family, was there. And he called me aside and said, the one who said I should not study social work. Then he said to me, hi, my dear, I think it's about time that you should buy your own car. I don't like what's happening. This is very stressful and so on. And I took that word. And I went to cater. When I arrived, because I walk with God, you know, in this journey, they were still busy with their workshop. I set up. I sat even maybe for 30 minutes before they come to have their food. And that was just a greatest relief. But remember, it doesn't always happen like that. So that is my introduction. That is the woman that you are seeing, who really started in a funny way. But I really marveled. And, you know, from that catering and that sole trader, I then decided to say, because a sole trader is a bit of a tricky kind of a business, because remember, you are taxed as an individual. So the tax itself is a bit higher. And then the other thing, when you go look for finance, it becomes a challenge. In terms of the characteristics, those who understand it, you'll realize that because you cannot separate the owner from the business. So if you are to go to a financial institution and they give you money, and it happens that you die, your money and everything is stuck up in some trust, I mean, in some estate, and maybe there's a lot of fightings within the families and so on. It means whoever that borrowed your money is in trouble because they have to wait until the estate is wound up. So that is just one thing that makes it not a very good kind of a business. And again, if you are to lose any business, you are affected personally, because if, for example, you are married, it means even your partner is affected. When they are to sell things, everything belongs to your name. So basically, it's not really a very safe kind of a business if you're not responsible. Hence, you just have to register a business. So I moved from that space of the catering. I was still doing catering with that business because it was already established. And then I went to buy what we call a shelf company. And with a shelf company, my first project was to do bush clearing. I went along next to our hospital. There's a nursing college. It's called Shirizini Nursing College. And I saw that it was so bushy. And I went inside there because this business, I was owning it with my friend, the one that I started with, yeah. So she had 50% shares, but she was working. And she was a backup in terms of finance because I was not working, she was working. So my responsibility in that business was to do marketing and do the operational side of the business. And I went to that place and said, no, this place is very dirty. Why are you not cleaning it? And I gave them ideas to say, you can put this in procurement. And they put it in procurement. And the first company that won that project was me, of course. And we just got some guys who were seated on the street. We said, guys, we have got a job for you. We went buy those things that we used, the lashes and the what for a day. We bought them cool drinks and bread. They worked that day. And I think the first invoice that we submitted was like 48,000. And that's not a lot of, it was a lot of money because we're talking about like the early 2000 there. And that's where we realized that this thing is doable. Then the second project on that company, I saw an advert on the local paper where the University of Venda was, they'd advertised a catering, tender for the university. And in that advert, I read that they said that the company that will be eligible to be appointed should have a small company within the area so that they can do skill transfer. Otherwise, if you are a big company, you are tendering and you don't have that, they were not going to give you the tender. So I looked at the company that was presently catering. When I was a student there, it was the same company. And I decided to approach them. And when I approached them, I told them, obviously, our business was not really that well established, at that time. And I lied in my presentation. I remember I was speaking to the business development manager of the company. And I called him to say, I saw an ad, blah, blah, and so on. And they interviewed me. And they liked my story. And I told them that, with the business profile that we prepared, we indicated that we catered for funerals, for weddings in our community before we were formally, registered. And I knew that I could come up with names, wherein if they want to do follow-ups, then they can, you understand what I'm trying to say. So I was then called formally to come to Woodmead. Their offices were in Woodmead. I'm in Venda. I don't have a car at that time. I decided to say, okay, first impression last. Because I'm called for there's a board meeting, they want to see this company, and the tender was closing, I think, on Wednesday. I had a meeting with them on Monday here in Woodmead. So I went to my cousin who stays in Glen Vista. In the morning when they were taking the kids to school, they gave me a lift, took taxis in Joburg, came to Woodmead with a suit. I invested on a nice suit and a business bag, and I was looking presentable. And then I walked in there. When they took me, they assumed I had a car, right? And the person who received me was the business development manager. And I just said, I was not married at that time. I was still young. And I said, my husband and I came for a business meeting. And I said, you know what? My husband is in the trucking, industry, this cross-border kind of a business. So he went to Boksburg for a meeting. So we're using one car. So he dropped me here. So he will pick me up later. And I put the story. When they looked at me, I was really convincing with my looks. And I walked in a boardroom like this. It was like black, like this. And that boardroom was full of white people. I think the only blacks that I saw were only 3. And I walked in, there was this man, he was called Louis. He had a patch. You see that black patch that people normally put on their eyes? I don't know what for. And when I walked in there, I'm like, Pumuzo, what are you going to do here? And then they gave me an opportunity to present. I presented. They asked me questions. I answered. They said, we are taking this company worth. So submit all the documentation. I had all the documentation in my bag, very organized. I gave them. And then they said, we need to meet. The person who was going to submit the tender was going to be there on Wednesday. The next day, then I had to go back to Venda so that I can meet that person on Wednesday. But the funny story was when I was leaving that place after that meeting. And then I said to the business development manager, I said, you know what, just take me there's a McDonald's there at Woodmead. So I said, just drop me there at McDonald's. I want to read my emails. And then I'll be waiting for my husband. So he'll come and pick me up there. He told me that he's on his way. So I will just be there. And that poor man took me with his car, dropped me at Woodmead. When he left, going back to the offices, I walked. You see there's a queue where people get their taxis there? You see that place, no? Yeah, when they stand on the queue, waiting for the taxis to Joburg. I'm going back to my cousin's place. The next day I went back to Venda. Wednesday, my uncle borrowed me a car. I had a car. I drove there. And then I met them, and we submitted. And amazingly so, we won the tender. I tell you, the reason was for them to get that tender was because of us. Remember, we were actually local girls, and we were actually, we studied at the local university. So we really, fit on the profile very perfectly. But because they were supposed to do skill transfer, they were just giving us money. Every month, I think we were getting 25,000. But they were not really doing the skill transfer. You know how these people can do, they take advantage of us, yeah. And then I think the university picked it up in some few months that, no, this is not a real deal. And then they decided to cancel the tender. But we had actually received quite a bit of money. And that's where I was actually, enlightened to say, this thing can work, huh? I don't really need a formal employment. I can do this thing. So we maneuvered around all the, challenges and moving forward. And I remember after that company that I was owning with my friend, I said to my friend, because I realized that I was the one who was putting more effort on the business. He was just getting the 50% cut while she's working at SABC, and I was doing all the job. I said, no, let's also have our own companies that are formally registered. Then I had my close corporation, and I started very well. I got the first project, which was this feeding scheme, school feeding scheme. And then I also got a project to deliver some animal feed across the province in all our districts. And that was one of the breakthrough that I got in the tender space. And the rest is history. I think my introduction you are able to follow it, right? But don't be threatened. I'm still here standing and still face some challenges, even though I look like, my introduction looks very good. But now I want to get in the more formal part of my presentation. I think I will ask the slide where it says reflection on my financial management at that time. Or can I just go through it? Oh, it's there. Oh, okay. Thank you. Technology is not my friend, guys. Ne? Pardon me. I have my papers here. On the reflection on my financial management, I looked back and said, what is it that I didn't do right? And what is it that I did right during my infancy stage of my business? And I realized that by chance, I was more covered because of my exposure to the commercial space. The studies that I did really assisted me a lot, because when I started to get big projects, I then realized that there's a need for me to appoint an accountant. So then I got an accountant, because I had, in a month, I was actually, I think my net was, my net was maybe about 250, maybe 1,000 and so on, with the 2 projects that I was running at the same time. One was with the Department of Education, one was with agriculture. So I was able to make a profit of 250,000, a profit a month, yes. And during that time, I think that was in around 2004 to 2005, then I was frequenting Gauteng at that time. That's when I was preparing to get married. You know how it works. So I got married in 2007. In between that money-making, spinning way. And I have learned a big lesson. At that time, my wedding costed me almost 250,000 at that time. I was checking the slips. I just got entangled with my slips. When I was discarding some other things, I said, wow, my wedding ring costed me 12,500 in 2007. Imagine. And I looked back and said, there was no need for me to spend that much money. I called the musicians, to come and perform at that time. My wedding was at a rugby stadium in Louis Richard. It was so awesome. Even my pastor was like, I've never seen such a wedding. I do not know where I got those ideas from, but I promise you it was one of the spectacular kind of a wedding. We went through, you see the rugby players when they come up from the tunnel like, that's how we came up, yeah. So all the people were seated, those people who were actually the matron of whatever were standing, they were on a guard of honor. The gentlemen were wearing sunglasses, the ladies on the other side. It was awesome. And we got married and it was beautiful. And when I look back, because I remember when we got married, we had kids already. And then my firstborn, who's 30 now, was I think maybe 8 years or somewhere there, or 10. And she said to me, Mommy, why are you making a wedding? Why don't you buy a house? That girl today is an accountant. And I'm like, I was so much in love and I wanted to get married the right way. And I wanted my perfect wedding. I said, no, we'll see that later. But when I look back, as part of what I've learned, I realized that 250,000, because remember, without exposing my partner, it was coming from me because he was just an employee. He was a trained driver, and he was still on training. So obviously, the whole amount came from my pocket. And I could have actually saved that money, put it on an investment, or bought a property. And today, you'll be talking to a billionaire if I walked that journey. So I didn't do things right at that time. But the one thing that I did right was actually to be sure that my finances and my books were kept safe. That's why even today, I'm not afraid of SARS, because I know that I need to do 1, 2, 3. I registered for my VAT in time because I know the threshold that you needed to be for you to register for VAT. So I never had any, authorities after me because I always did my business right. And my first car for my business that I bought, my accountant advised me to basically buy a van because I was in catering, remember, I will be expected to carry stuff. And I decided to buy a Golf. Powerful one with big tires and loud music and what. I mean, a girl, imagine. And I came alone and bought it here in Gauteng. And when during catering services, I would put the N on the boot. We'll remove the speakers. I carry there was a big speaker there. Yeah, we'll put the trays will be on the back seat and so on. We go cater. When there are bigger events, that when I go back to my uncle, can you borrow me that bakkie, Until I realized that, no, this thing is not going to work. I need to buy a big car. And I invested in an Isuzu. That thing is powerful. And that was when I got the feeding scheme. I bought 2 cars, bakkies. From there, I never looked back. So, lessons that I've learned. I learned that, remember, I was able to make those big weddings, spend and so on. Fortunately, I was not really an extravagant kind of a person, a material person. I'm not a material person. But not drawing a salary as a director from your proceeds. It's something that I've learned because remember I had access. The 250,000 that I'm talking about, I would be staring at it in my bank account, right? And it meant that whenever I wanted to spend, I would just use that card, swipe, do whatever, transfer if I'm transferring and stuff like that. And then when I look back, I realized that had I looked at myself as an employee of the company and made sure that I was, earning a salary, today I'm telling you I would be speaking a different language. And I did not do that. And then the other thing was that, when you have debts, because as you are running a business, you'll accumulate some debts, you'll buy stuff on, credit from the suppliers and so on. When you get paid, maybe you don't pay them the whole amount, you decide to do something else, and you said you'll pay them later. But remember, you are attracting interest on that debt that you have actually accumulated. And that's, people don't realize how much money they are losing. And that's the lesson that I've learned to say, I could have, because during the feeding scheme era, I had an account with a company where we were buying mealie meal and your samp, the sugar beans and so on. And they were putting interest. And at the end of the project, it didn't end well, that project. And you were left with owing a lot of money to a point that I really got some legal, challenges. Then by that time you don't have money to pay for it, and that's not really wise. And then the other thing that I've actually learned was that, whenever you want to purchase the business equipment, say you are doing catering services, you want to buy those pen maris, the what, the ends, the whatever that you use. It's very important now with the information that we have online. It is never necessary to buy a brand new kind of thing. Companies are really having it difficult these days, and they're disposing those equipment still in good condition on auction. And when you are saving with them, nobody will know that you went and bought them brand new. As long as they're in good working condition, and so on. I think this thing is not working anymore, but I think I can increase my volume. So that is another tip that I can share with you, to say, go online, check on auction. Hello? Okay. Can we get some assistance? Hello? Okay. Okay. Yes, they are sorting it out. I want to believe that we are winning. Okay. Thank you. So the other thing that I've learned was the fact that beside the qualifications that I gained, that were not really entirely relevant with the business that I was in, I then realized that enrolling for those short courses, these small business financial management courses that you do maybe for a day, when you are actually exposed to the best, there are people who will be able to share very powerful, information on how you can manage your business and grow. Because remember, one of the things that one should focus on when you are running a business is growth. You can't run a business for the sake of just surviving. You need to have a landmark. You need to have footsteps that the generation that comes after you may follow, to say, this is where she walked. And then that, for me, you are pathfinders. You're supposed to be pathfinders. People must follow you. So I have learned that investing on those short courses really assists a lot. What would I do differently? Given a second chance. Remember, I made some wrong, decisions and stuff like that. I promise you the first thing that I would do if I were to be given a second chance would be to entirely, strip myself, the control that I have, for my finance, and just not have, on our wallets, if we check the women there, we have got this thing of carrying all the cards. And when you lose the purse, you lose everything, and you expose yourself to these criminals that are very smarter than us. And there would be no need for you to carry a business card, unless if it's a secondary card that has been made, because there are benefits, of course. Like if you have this account for Standard Bank, you find that when you go put petrol at, I think it's Caltex, right? Yeah, you get those points, you get, and that's very, very advisable. But then you can get a secondary card where you do not have access to the real account, but you get, to get the benefits. And I have learned that, should I be given a chance, that's how I will start. And another thing, I wouldn't have started with buying a Golf. I would have started right. In fact, I would not even have gone, because when I bought my first van, I bought the top of the range. I was this kind of a girl who says, you go big or you go home. So for me, when I bought my first car, I bought the 3-liter Isuzu LX. It was called at that time, I think it was called, what was that Isuzu called? It's still beautiful, still one of the beautiful Isuzus. I bought it in Go Big. It was called Go Big. Yeah, 2005 model. I got that. Short as I was, that car was up there. When I'm driving on the road, because I'm a fast driver, then when I see that you are giving me an attitude, I'm gonna. It was so fast. It was a diesel car. It was a diesel car, and I promise you, I spent, I think, over at that time, 2005. Because I had some extras on it. I'm always, extras, and then I paid about maybe 270 for that car. That was a lot of money by that time. So when I look at it today, I realize it was not necessary. I could have gone to get an Hilux because Toyotas are very, easy to manage. At that time, they were even cheaper to maintain. But an Isuzu, diesel car is good, but it's very expensive to maintain. But then the Isuzu, of course, it has got a long lifespan. But you need to be able to make a lot of money to do that. And I would have actually, with the money that I spoke about, that is just a drop in the ocean on what I was making at that time. And remember, I'm talking about somebody who's in the early 30s at that time. And I was already, when I tell people that I was a millionaire, when I was below 30, they think I'm joking. But what is being a millionaire? If you do not have, money is getting in the account, you can see the account. At the end of the year, you have made maybe 5 million. But when you look, because the real business person should be able to say, I'm a millionaire because of the property that you have, the investments that you have, the trust that you have, all those kind of things that will actually, sustain you and sustain your children and even, grow you as a business person. I failed to do that. And now I'm older. I'm living to actually make sure that my grandkids, are going to have a better. But it's already too late. I'm older now. I'm just living to sustain and maintain my lifestyle. Guidelines on what to do to achieve good financial management. Honestly speaking, for any business to be successful and to be strong and to grow, you need good financial access and support. It is said, black people, I always say this when I'm talking to my white colleagues, and I don't hide around the bush about this. It is not easy for a black person to access finance. You can have a project worth 20 million, and you go to the bank with that appointment letter. I promise you, for you to be able to get finance, you need to really struggle. You need to kick doors for them to actually assist you. But your financials will be showing. You would be conducting your account very well. Remember, they said that the account scores itself. If you don't have debits that are returning and stuff like that, the business should grow and your account should look good. But for you to access finance is not easy. And that's why you need to, as a business person, you need to understand your space so much that you network with the right, people, right companies, for those days that you will need that backup and that support. And I want to make an assumption that most of us here are in the tender space. Am I correct? We're doing construction, we are supplying. We normally, maybe some of us have got POs that are just sitting. We do not know how we're going to do that. We are even planning to cancel them, isn't it? I know the story. But you must not worry. We are going to share how you can navigate around that and what you can do. The one thing that I also want to say before I can share that part of the finance. When you make money, tender money is easy money. It comes, hey, we make money. If you are lucky enough and you competed with some companies that just did not want to respond and the department is under pressure, they want to buy, you can find yourself just making a profit of even 70% one time without any connection. Those things do happen. And imagine you are having 70,000 that was not projected. It just came. You are so excited about it. The first thing that you want to do is to take your friends out for a nice lunch or dinner or something. You want to spoil yourself with a Gucci handbag. You want to spoil yourself, with a nice belt. Gentlemen like to wear those belts that we see these days. And, the weakness that men has is a cars. When you get that project worth millions, you want to buy a Range Rover, you want to buy a Lamborghini, and you come from areas like where I come from, where a Lamborghini cannot drive. You leave it in Polokwane because driving, when you pass Louis Richard, there's a lot of potholes. That thing is not going to make it there. So you need to pack it, get another car there in Polokwane. What's the point of investing on such a useless thing? Because even if it's a Lamborghini, it loses value at some point. Unlike if you had actually invested on a property. So for me, I always share with people to say, if you are confident enough, because what I've learned is that most business people, especially those who are in tenders, they are so surprised to find themselves in spaces where they're like, yo, I never thought I'll get here. And then they do things for people to endorse them. Those people suffer from low self-esteem. They don't have confidence, according to me. Because I don't need to drive a Mercedes for you to take me serious. It is what I've learned, it is what I have in my head that will make you to sit down and say, who's this woman? I don't have to be introduced with that long list to say, hey, what? So I believe that every day when you are running your business, you're basically building up a sort of with a human being when you are living every day. We say you are making your own obituary. When you die, they're going to talk about the deceased did this, achieved this, she went to school here and there. That's what you're doing in your business. Where you have started is where your profile is going to start. With you is a business profile. So you're building up your business profile. And if you grow like that, and if you understand that, even with a baby, they were not born and just started walking. They went through all the stages. So it's one thing that I need to challenge you, colleagues, to say, believe so much in your trade, believe in your products, believe in what you are able to offer, rather than for people to actually look at you as if you are Jesus Christ when you walk in. They start giving you chairs and so on. Just be like any other person, and then you'll find yourself not under pressure, because it is pressure that makes people to even do things they cannot afford. I know that everyone, especially these days, this explosive, these social spaces have really exposed us, and they're also giving us so much pressure. You see a friend posting. I saw this friend that I went to school with yesterday. He's making money. He's a sound engineer. Yeah, he's making money. And he posts everything on Facebook. It's part of his marketing. When people look at him, they think, this guy is bragging. Kantiana, so when he posts those things, he's got clients that is actually catching them. Now I saw him, he's traveling to the Netherlands. And then you will see him traveling, and you get the 70,000, you decide, now I want to go to Mexico. Because this person, you follow the person, right? But you don't know where this person got the money from. Maybe he was invited by a company that wants to use the services. They paid for everything. When are you going to take that money that you're supposed to save and grow your business, and you go on an exotic getaway? What is that? For me, I feel there is so much space to learn. I mean, holidays are good. We need to rest. But then you can buy some holiday packages where you plan, you pay, there are rebates, there are these benefits. Now I see with Momentum and Discover are competing. I am on the Momentum side. You are paid for living healthy. You are paid for driving right. You are paid for, you've got those benefits. When I want to book a flight, Emirates to be exact, I am given about, I think, 4 trips that have got 50%, if not 40% discount on my flights with my family. And when I want to book hotels like this local Protea hotels, I get 50% discount. When you go there and you book, you are paying a hefty amount, and you meet me there, you think, hey, this woman has money. I'm relying on the benefits, You need to be able to understand what you can do, what you need, And then you need to be able to see that every cent that I'm putting is worthwhile, because you cannot take out money that is not going to come back. But of course, you need a healthy body, healthy mind. That's why you need to actually relax. But then, does it really have to come at a price of an arm and a leg? No. You have to be smart with your finances. You need to be smart when you navigate around the business space for you to be considered a pathfinder. Then the conclusion. I want to share with you how you can beat this purchase order dilemmas. There is a company that actually, if you Google, if my children ask me, the people are very lazy to look for information. I'm one of the person that doesn't just hand out information. I make you to work for it, because that way, you'll never forget, right? So my children will say, Mommy, tell me, what is the meaning of this? I'm like, you've got a smartphone, Google. And Uncle Google is there to help you, then I will explain if you don't understand. So if you go on your internet and you Google purchase order funding, there will be companies that will come through there. But one of the companies that will come through is Funding Hub. Funding Hub is it's a financial marketing company. So they've got affiliates, they've got companies that have affiliated under them. So what they do, they connect those companies, the financial institutions, with potential customers like you. You have got a need for that funding and so on. So what you do, when you go open their website, it's very easy, to get the finance. You will see in their web page that they will say funding start from 15%. From. It means that is the maximum that you are going to be charged for seeking financial assistance from a company that is associated with Financial Hub. And you'll be shocked to learn that there are companies that charges you a maximum of 4.5%. So you tell me, if you are going to get a request for quotation with a department, for example, correctional services for those who do supply and delivery of groceries or whatever. Again, now since the Busasa issue, correctional services are buying their groceries and everything on RFQs. You do know that, right? But the competition in correctional services is massive. Everyone is that CSD thing needs somebody who's also very smart about it. Some of you get those scam emails mostly, and I know it's because you don't know why. You don't know how to navigate around the CSD. The people that have actually designed that CSD were very smart, and they shared information on how to benefit from CSD to their loved ones. One of the things that I can share with you on the correctional services, of course you'll get those requests, those ones that you submit on the tender box, the ones that are above 250,000. You compete with a lot of people, that some are knowledgeable, some are not knowledgeable. But then you will see that they would have copied a lot of companies. One thing that you must learn, never be threatened by seeing a queue of those emails and say, I'm not submitting, the competition is too tight. I trained my 2 daughters. My firstborn is working, but she has got a side business. She is making, yesterday, what she does, because she does not know those things very well. Yesterday, she got a purchase order from the defense. I remember I assisted them with her husband when they were doing the quotation. And then they got the purchase orders. So they thought it was a scam. And they sent it to me, Mommy, check this, is this a legitimate order? It's not that much, because you'll find that they are getting the orders for 45,000. They will make a profit of 15,000. Where will you get 15,000 from? So if you know better how to respond to those RFQs, you can find yourself in a month having got 5 POs. And in all of them, if you are getting 15,000, you are better than a chief director in the department, honestly speaking. So I saw that. So what you do when you see those RFQs, the first thing that you need to understand as well, invest on good companies where you buy your stock from. That's where you beat the competition. Because if you go to a wholesaler and you get the good price and you still negotiate that if I get this, you're going to give me a discount. Negotiate discounts. When you are going to submit your RFQ, you are already lower. Even if they want to do their deals or whatever, they cannot touch you because CSD, one thing for sure, even if they can manipulate it, but they cannot manipulate it to the core. You will still, if you have attached everything right, you understood the specification and you gave them exactly what they're looking for. And the one thing that I was actually discussing lately was the fact that people lose these projects because of minor things. For example, where they will say, maybe this information is not applicable to you. You see when you're reading that this one is not applicable to me. You skip. You don't do not applicable. You don't do no. Because remember, there is a difference between not applicable and no. There is a question where they will ask you the VAT number, right? You don't have a VAT number yet because maybe you don't qualify. You don't write not applicable. You write no. You are not registered for VAT as yet. That thing is applicable to any business. It's just that you need to qualify for you to be a VAT vendor. So those are some of the things that eliminates you to actually get ahead and not signing where you are supposed to sign, putting dates. Correctional services now, they even want you to initial every page. There is a person who actually lost a project because they didn't initial. They wrote there on the cover page when they were inviting to say initial every page. The person did everything. The person was actually ahead. I basically went with that person to Fort. When I went there, they showed and I read the specification. It says initial. You have lost the case. You can't do anything. So it's important for you to read the specification, check the attachments that are needed. What I always teach people to say, when you get that invitation, that RFQ, or a tender document, read the specification, what they are requiring, write them down on your maybe whiteboard, if you have a whiteboard to remind you to say, I need to get this. I need to check that my tax is in order. I need to check that the CSD, everything is in order. What you do while you are waiting for prices, because this service suppliers sometimes, they can take forever. You are going to get prices maybe a day before, the tender closes. But if you have already attached everything, and you are only left with the prices, there is no way that you cannot submit a competitive bid. So that is just one thing that I thought, it was not part of my presentation, but I realized that is one thing that is making people not to get these RFQs. So there is a company which is called Bright On Capital Pty Ltd. They are here in Sunning Hill. This company fund purchase order, invoice discounting, contract finance. I know with purchase order funding, you know about that. But the invoice discounting is where you have delivered maybe to municipalities. Normally municipalities take time to pay. Or maybe ESCOM, because some of these people, they will sit on your invoices. They want you to pay them kickbacks before they can pay you. So when you go to this company, they are able, you give them the invoice to say, this is what I've invoiced government, or whatever the institution, and then you cannot wait for 30 days to get the money. So they pay you 80% of your invoice upfront, and they wait for that money. They will actually charge the interest. I think with invoice discounting, they charge about 3% of whatever the amount that they're charging, they're financing you with, not with the whole purchase order. So if you need, for example, to buy stock for 50,000, they will charge you only 3%. So they will give you 80% of that. Then the 20%, when the department pays you, comes to you. But when they pay you, that 3% will actually, they will receive the 3% of the 80%. That is invoice discounting. Then they also have what we call contract finance. With contract finance is when you want to buy your equipments. Maybe you got a contract to do the road, and you want to buy maybe whatever those equipments that you want to buy. So they are able to assist you to actually finance you. I think their minimum is about 3 to 6 months for you to assist you. So they charge, I think there, because there's a bit of a risk involved, they charge you about 4.5% for the amount that they would have given you. So if you are a first time with them, the maximum that they can give you is 2.5 million. I don't think most of us will be sitting with purchase orders for 2.5 million. But for POs, I mean, this is the company that you can start with. What they will actually do will be they work with Nedbank, this one. So if they're going to assist you, it means they're going to make you to open a business account with Nedbank. It is in your company name. They are not directors and so on. But what they do, they manage the account until you get your money back, right? When you get the money and they get their money, you can even close the account if you want, or you go back to the company, to the account that you've been using before. So there are no hassles. There's nothing that you can say you cannot get that help from. But otherwise, with other big projects, my advice to you is that go to the funding hub. So what you do, they ask you a question to say, how much do you want? You'll put the information right there online. Then they will say, upload this document, you upload. So what they do, they send your application to various companies that when they get, if you are assigned with one of those companies, they get a certain percentage for their marketing, because all they are doing is to connect, But also yourself, if you refer me to Brighton Capital, and they really assist you, they give me a certain percent. You can make money in any other way, even if you're not really getting, just to refer your friend. Because I think the most important thing, when we are networking, let's make sure that we have got the right people on our corner. We learn something at the end of the day as we connect with the people that we are with. So finance should never be an issue. Standard Bank, I have been banking with Standard Bank for the past 17 years or more. I've never changed banks. They now have what we call enterprise development something. So what you do is the same as like this, but the thing that they do, if you are going to buy stock or whatever, they will make you to open an account as well. And then it's the same process, but their interest is, I think it's about, they charge prime plus 2%. Yes, prime plus 2%. And then there will be that initiation fee that they charge, because they need to go. If you're going to buy, for example, equipment, they go and do investigation to say, is this company legit? Because some of us are really losing a lot of money by just, paying companies that were not really researched. So they do that. By the time they pay you money, they are sure that this is a legit company. They're not going to lose money. So there's a lot of companies that you can, I think I've already, with the group that we're attending online, I've shared in some contacts of some financial hub, but I'm also a phone call away to actually give guidelines on how you can access the finance space and so on. But this company that is called Brighton Capital, those are the details there. That young man, Ifimura, is their CFO. Very, very good. He will actually, even if you don't qualify, that man has got a heart. He doesn't want to see any business failing. He will do whatever, convince the board to even say, please fund this person. But you need to be sure that your profile as well, in terms of how you handle your finances, speaks for you. And in conclusion, I just wanted to say, tenderpreneurs do not stand a chance in the dispensation that we are transiting to strive to be a legitimate businesswoman or man who can leave footprints that others can walk on. You cannot be a tenderpreneur. Obviously, it's a negative thing when you are called a tenderpreneur, but there's a reason why those people started the name tenderpreneur. And blessings and success for your business as you strive to perfection. Thank you so much, and that is all.
Thank you so much. That's very, very insightful, very, very, informative, and yeah. So, if you'll allow me, I know you guys are, have been taking copious notes and are burning to actually engage and actually get, some of those questions answered. But with your permission, if you can maybe take just 15 minutes just to have a quick refreshment and then be back here at exactly past, so that we can go into that discussion. That will then take us to lunch. Is everybody happy with that? Okay. So please make it. Let's make it 10 minutes so that we are definitely here by past, and then yeah, we can basically go in and have a proper discussion and converse of how we take our businesses forward. Thanks. See you back at past.
You don't have petrol. Oh, three cars. Okay, let me give.
Thank you very much. See we all back. Hopefully we all nice and coffeeed up, rooibosed up, grayed up, whatever it is that your preference was. Um, we are into the Q&A section now, right? So I'm getting echo. I'm not sure. How do we fix that? Or maybe I should just stand back. How about now? Sounds better. Okay. So yeah, we're at the beginning of our Q&A session. So how we're going to do this is we've got people online, and obviously we've got an live audience in the room. We'll first go with the questions that have been posted online, and then once we've exhausted those, then we can come back into the live session, because then it can be interactive and then we can let it flow naturally, right? Everybody on board, right? So what I'm going to ask to do as well is, just like the last time, if you have a question, please stand up, introduce yourself, and face one of the cameras, preferably the one on the left, so that the people online can actually have the benefit of your beautiful and handsome faces, you know. Not that I'm pimping you out, but yeah, I've got to brag a little bit about our audience. So yeah, without wasting too much time, Masedi at the back there, who you are all acquainted with, I will basically be fielding the questions from the guys online. And Pumuzo, you will be the expert in the room to kind of talk to your presentation on the back of the question. So I'm handing over the mic to you now.
No problem. Nonhlanhla Lebeko has got 3 questions for you, Pumuzo. The first one is, have you at any point in your life, outside of your uncle's influence, thought of getting into a career that is aligned to your qualification? That's the first question. Then the second question is, besides money being a motivating factor to do business with public entities, what other reasons did you have to work primarily with the private sector? No, with the public sector, I beg your pardon. So she's asking, besides money being a motivating factor to do business with public entities, what other reasons did you have to work primarily with the public sector? And then her last question is, I'm not sure if it's a he or she, but Nonhlanhla's last question is, have you done any work within the private sector? If so, please share your experience.
Thank you. I'll quickly start with the first one, career relevance. I didn't really get deeper into my qualifications. My qualifications are diverse. I didn't just study BCom and marketing. I did marketing, I did human resources, but I also studied law. And my heart is in, the social aspect of humanity than to make money. So I like to make a difference and make sure that somebody is okay, because for me, that's the most important thing. So I have studied law, and because my heart is in family law. I've seen a lot of families women in particular being really being taken for a ride after the divorces and so on. So I then added on the family law, the divorce and family mediator. So I'm that person that I don't like litigation. So I'm in my career, but amazingly so, I'm not in my career to make money. I am in my career to serve humanity, to do what God had called me to do. That is my calling, actually. So this tender and whatever that I do is basically just to sustain my life. And I love to do things that are aligned to the creation. Like I'm now into different things. I'm in the fertilizer space. I've been in that space for over 10 years or more, wherein I really supply fertilizers in bulk in different government entities. So yes, I consider that. So the career in BCom and so on, I use it on a daily basis on my business. So I don't really need to go and be an accountant for this company and so on. But I really see that I'm really using that on a daily basis. The second question about whether, beside the money motivating as a factor, why, what is it that I've decided, why did I decide to work with public sector than the private sector? When I grew up, I was not really, remember, I come from Limpopo, as I said. I was born and bred there. It was only when I was actually, after my first qualification, I came to Gauteng to do something else. That's when I was really exposed to Gauteng. You know, it was then that you'll just come when you are still young to come and visit your brother who stays in Midlands, you know, when you were still very young. But on my adult time, I then decided to say, because I'm exposed to government, because I mean the only public sectors that we were exposed to in Venda at that time was Telkom. It was not actually entirely private, you know. It's a government entity, and there were few, private companies. I think because I started with the public sector, I then realized that their system works for me. I hear people complaining about waiting for 30 days to get their payments. I don't think I've ever worked with a department that have ever paid me after 15 days without knowing any person. I have been getting paid in 7 days, 10 days, and that's actually one thing that have actually made me to concentrate on public sector. And that's where I meet people that are starting up, you know. You go to a briefing session, that's where you meet people. You know, with private sector, remember these tenders are sent to your email. You don't even know each other. So there's no giving back that you'll actually do within your community. But with the public sector, that's where I meet the people that I realize, I mean, sometimes I get a quotation that was sent. Maybe, and this is something very important that I want to share as well. When you receive an RFQ and then you want to respond to the sender to say you have received it, you go to reply all. Please refrain from doing that. I've been getting quotations, response where you are supposed to send to the entity, and you are competing with me. And I see your pricing and everything because you don't know that skill to say, you don't say reply to all. You must reply to the sender directly. So that's where I'll pick up that this company, they don't know how they're doing it. I will pick that person and call. You are not going to get this project because of 1, 2, 3. I start to teach them there. That is why actually I decided to focus on public sector. Nothing specific reasons. I've not dealt with the private sector at all in my life. I've been on public all my life. Thank you.
So we should introduce ourselves. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lubabalo Leve. I am the owner of Isakono Heads. Our company does sourcing, but we also do a bit of construction, building maintenance, and some plumbing, and we also do solar installations. I have a question around PO financing. You mentioned that there are all of these companies that Bright Waters, if I were to remember correctly. I just want to find out, do any of them assist people who are sourcing products globally. I am asking this question because we had an incident where I think about 4 years ago, we had a PO from one of the big JSE listed food manufacturing companies. And however, because we're into sourcing food ingredients, the product was to be bought in China. It is not manufactured locally in South Africa. And we literally lost that PO. Total value per annum was about 13 to 14 million. We lost that PO because we could not get funding locally to fund basically that PO. Everyone was asking if the product is manufactured in South Africa, and if it is not manufactured locally, try to source it locally. But then again, how can you source a product locally which is not available locally? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the company that I spoke about, with confidence because of the relationship I have with them. It's called Bright on Capital. Yes, they actually fund a product that are sourced globally. Last week, they assisted a person who bought a forklift from China. And the person is having a project in Mpumalanga. So what they do as well, upon purchasing, they need to be there on delivery as well to make sure that it is the right spec and everything. So yes, they are able to assist you with that. But you need to also understand that you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the product cannot be found locally, because our government is also keen. And this thing where they say it's proudly South African, they are encouraging us. But then, even if the product is in the country, remember it will also depend on the quality that the country is able to produce, and also the cost factor. So if the cost factor is massive, remember government also has to save. So you are going to give them a product that is very much expensive, and they won't be able to actually live up to the mandate that Treasury expect them to live up to. They must save money. That's why now when you are to get a project, they actually make you to do negotiation. You negotiate with them. They try to make you to go down so that they can actually save money. So yes, the company is able to fund products that are found outside.
Is it afternoon, colleagues? I'm Tebogo Maelani, the owner of the company Ditsok on the Move. I'm more into maintenance, construction, and motor mechanic. My question is actually on my side. I'm talking to it's a question based on my experience. I had a tender which I was bidding on, and then everything went well. My problem was they wanted a letter of capacity showing that you have got the capacity to do the work. And it was, I think now I've got almost 2 weeks now. It needed a capacity of 2 million upfront, so before you do the work. So I withdraw myself out because majority of the funding people, they want purchase order upfront. I had everything in, and I qualified for everything. Everything was intact, but now is the Bright on Capital. Can they do do they assist, or maybe it come to a point of saying, I need a letter from you guys to say you can fund me on this thing, because now they need an assurance. Majority of these big orders to say, if I need to do a 1 year work, will I be able to do it without problem of functionality of funds? I thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe if I can ask you, has the tender been cancelled?
On my side, I withdrawn, and then someone already got the work already.
Did you write a letter to say you were actually? Taking it
Yes,
back.
I withdrew I wrote an email saying I withdrew.
Oh.
I withdrawn due to the lack of capacity, because they wanted the capacity, and you need to prove that, and then they do the audit of, before they do anything, they need to do the audit to check if really, if you are saying you are capacitated, they need to check, because the program which they are running is it's a confidential work which they don't want it to be paralyzed because you fail to produce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I understand. Yeah, I'm sure Brighton Capital can assist on that. But I've been getting a lot of emails and calls from companies that give you a letter of capacity. Remember, with most governments, even I think the private sector, if they are giving you a project that is massive, and they know that you're an SMME, they know that you don't have capacity financially, then National Treasury has actually made a regulation that actually protects small businesses not to be able to be disadvantaged because of the lack of financial capacity. Because remember, you need to start getting work for you to be capacitated. So if you are to compete with those big companies, then you need to be put on par by actually getting the support. Yes, there are a lot of companies that are able to do that. There is another company in Centurion. You see on the, when you're off-ramping, when you're on the N1, you off-ramp as if you're going to Centurion Mall. There is, what is that gym that is competing with Vision Active? Yeah, Planet Fitness. You see, there are some restaurants where people network there. Right in that complex, there's a company. I had a meeting with them last time. They've got very interesting, they fund project up to 50 million. But you need to be able to go visit them before you have any job, so that you can check what else can you benefit from that. Well, their percentage becomes a big step because they are able to give you even the legal advice, the financial, it's a big thing. But even on the, I said to you, if you Google and say funding hub, you are going to get a lot of companies that you can go through and check which one, like that order. If you got an order, you can try this thing and just, put your details, the purchase order number, the value, everything that they want, so that you can see. This is how you're going to get a lot of those companies. You put that information, so that company, Financial Hub, is going to send your profile to a lot of companies. They will start calling you, sending you emails, and then they will give you the requirements, and they will tell you as to how much they can actually offer for that. 2 million, it's nothing. I mean, you shouldn't have lost that work. Honestly speaking, I'm so angry. I'm so angry because even a person like me or him can act and offer a collateral, make some agreements. It's important that when we are networking, we need to understand that there's no way that somebody can lose a lucrative deal because they don't have money when I've got money on the account. We just have to find ways. There are a lot of legal ways that we can follow for us to be able to assist each other. But yes, you can get companies that can assist you. You need to be in my very close proximity with me because, I'm not really registered with Financial Services Board. So if I fund you and you run away with my money, where will I run to? I would have committed an offense as well. So, but I know people who can assist you. Yeah, I know people who can assist you. Yeah.
Hi. Sorry, I know that earlier you mentioned, I know that earlier you mentioned that it is highly advisable, or you actually would highly advise that startup entrepreneurs should actually draw a salary from their bank account as much as possibly that they can. Now, I mean, I'm trying to take it to a more practical world. I know that you're also being practical. But when your monthly turnover, or what you can make, because we all do different things. And I always try to, myself, take away myself from what I do and apply it to anyone else who's an entrepreneur. Your takeaway or your monthly turnover is on about 15,000 rands at a margin maybe of, I don't know, let's say you're making about 40% of that is what is your net profit. My question is, how does a person in that situation, get enough discipline, or how does a person in that situation actually pay themselves a salary from that 4,000 rands or 5,000 rands that is their net profit? We're talking realistic situations. We know that the money doesn't come in constantly. It's not that you get paid at the end of the month. You sell a magwinya today, you come home, you've got $800 that you've made. Abantwana balambile ngapha, your kids are hungry, you need to buy something. How does one get out of that situation? Because it is, I think, what at the moment I see being a big challenge with a lot of other smaller businesses that I have had conversations with. Thank you.
Yes, I said.
So if I can, I want to give my view on this one, because I think the principle that Phumuzo is actually encouraging is to separate the individual and the business. Okay? So when a business is still young and it cannot draw a salary, you're quite correct. It's quite impractical. In that instance, what you want to try and do is that expenses that can legitimately go through the business as business-related expenses, of course you must put them through. But where you're now going to go and buy groceries for yourself, don't do it through the business. That's what Phumuzo is trying to encourage us to think about. Rather, even if you're drawing 1,500 every month, and there's a budget that is then used towards paying your non-business expenses, it's cleaner. Because what happens is later on, when you now have ramped up and your revenues are looking attractive, before you know it, you now are going on holiday using the business account. It's not a good idea. Separate the two. That's what the principle of what I'm hearing Phumuzo actually emphasizing by saying, given a second chance, there's me, the person who's got living expenses. Those that can't legitimately be put through the business, separate them. Put money aside and try and just, even if you, because by the way, there's a tax threshold. Below a certain amount, it's not taxable.
Yeah, thank you for that, Masedi. Just to add on that as well, remember, there are some products that are learned along the way, the banking products that actually can assist in terms of saving as well and getting an extra money. You know this bank called Time Bank, the Mutsepe Bank. Don't underestimate that bank. I use it. I've got two. I've got a business account and a personal account. When I've got maybe 200,000 that I have, that I can just put aside, I'm able to get about 7% on a monthly basis on that amount that I've put. I'm not joking. And I'm with Momentum. With Momentum, we've got what we call Multiply, and we've got a bank now with Momentum. And it's a normal card where you can go swipe, you can do everything. The only thing that you cannot do at the moment is to withdraw money. But as a saving, a place, you make a lot of money. It's competing, I think, with Time Bank. Because I saw they sent me an email to say now the money that I've put there, it's getting me about 8.7% every month. So imagine if you have put 500,000, right? And then you are able to just take the interest, transfer it into, that's your salary that you can get. Those are the two that I've been using, that I've seen that they're making wonders. And about, also when you make, you sit with your relationship manager, and to make it possible that you do not have access, because the issue you can tell yourself that, okay, fine, I won't touch this money. But if it's easy for you to access that money, then you are not doing anything. Make a plan to make sure that you decide. Remember, when you decide to say you're going to earn a salary, you need to find your expenses first. How much do you need a month, to live a comfortable life, not a luxurious kind of a lifestyle, but a normal life, because you're still building your business. So if you need 50,000, you earn 50,000. That's how I've been doing things. I earn 50,000, and out of that 50,000, because I'm a Christian, I'll pay tithe from there, I'll do everything there. But there are expenses that will not be part of your salary. Those will come from the business side, of course. So you can do that, it's doable. Even if you are getting 10,000 a month, you cannot expose your family and your children to a life you cannot afford. I think that's the most important thing that I want us to drive home with today. To say, be realistic, know where you are. Don't gauge yourself with what the other person is able to achieve, because you don't know where they're getting the money from. But you can grow very well and still spend wisely so with the amount that you're getting. Thank you. Before you jump in, can I just conclude by just sharing something with them?
Yeah, please.
I'm afraid to go in detail with the CSD trick, because I'll be arrested. But if you try to reach to me privately, I can be able to share that. But one of the things that I can share with you that is very important, it's put a lot of commodities as much as we can there on the CSD. But the biggest trick is the addresses. I'll tell you something. Somebody stays in Senten, and they've got an address there as their main address on CSD. And then they have another address maybe in Pretoria, another one maybe. Those are few addresses that you have, right? Maybe you may have addresses in all the provinces, one. But that's not sufficient. The trick of CSD that I can share with you without fear or favor or prejudice is that when you know, say for example, you're talking about Boxback, right? You want to populate addresses and you want to be able to be found in a lot of products, because what CSD does is when the department wants to buy cleaning material, they are going to punch in the information to say we want to buy cleaning material. So the CSD on its own will actually pick addresses that are nearby that institution. So if it's a Boxback Correctional Services, the people that are going to get the invites are the people that have got addresses around the vicinity of the correctional services, not any person who's in Gauteng. That's very important. So what you do as a homework to try to enhance your CSD, you go right down to, say, hospitals in Gauteng. You check them. There's business in hospitals. You check them. Okay, there is Helen Joseph Hospital, there is whatever. You look for addresses around there. It is not punishable by law. There is no policy that says you cannot do that. Remember, the address that is important is the main address that you have registered CSD with. So that's why even when you get POs, the address that will appear there will be your main address. But if CSD, if they want to buy something and they pick you in Eastern Cape, they're not going to question you to say, why are you having an address here? You are a South African, you are allowed to have as many addresses as possible, provided you can back up if they could decide to rock up and say, because some people know how to trick this CSD. And one of the department like defense, they are very smart about it. They will come with a PO at your address, but it's only defense. But some of the departments will not bother. They will just email you the PO or call you to say you've got a PO, and then you confirm. And so you can really make it. I promise you, tender is not necessary, but RFQ, you can actually, you can make it with RFQ. Just know the trick of CSD. You will never go hungry. Thank you.
So, no, thank you for that, Pumuzo. Because I mean, I just wanted to say, that it's just like this tax avoidance and tax evasion. We are not talking tax evasion type of material here. We're talking avoidance. This is legit. Above board, a loophole is a loophole because something doesn't work, not because somebody's being malicious. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. I mean, Pumuzo did say she's available, for questions. If you have a requirement to have maybe an engagement outside of this, she's here at lunch. Do approach her, get the details, and make sure how you can get in contact and basically progress whatever question or discussion that you may have. So I think a key takeaway for me is everybody here is in one business or another, trying to make it. But I mean, it's all about posture, really, how you present yourself. I mean, she mentioned, that first meeting in that boardroom full of white males. Everybody would probably agree in that boardroom that she is quite big in terms of her profile. But it's really the confidence that you show up with. Actually, I read a quote the other day that when you talk about first impressions, it's not really first impressions based on how you look. People don't really remember much of how you look. It's the confidence is the most important part. So walking into that boardroom with that confidence, it says a lot. That people, somebody can say, okay, I want to buy some of that. I want to have a relationship with that. So that's quite important. So yeah, let's be aware of how we package ourselves, the boldness that we go into these conversations with, and just be cognizant that this is not a marathon, but it's not a sprint, but a marathon really. We are building step by step towards something. That vision is important in terms of what it is that you want to achieve, so that you can put all of these nuggets of wisdom into practice in terms of growing step by step to that legacy that you may be after, that you may be trying to build. So yeah, before we go, I just want to go around the room if there's any last questions or comments or okay, all right. I see immediately there's. We have another mic somewhere.
Well, just a curious question on my side. Does our speaker have a consulting office, or maybe she have a place where she normally work, where people, or maybe we can do a directive to send maybe some of our colleagues who are still stranded, because information like this, we are many who are scattered because we have got the confidence of going for hunting a fish, but we can't manage to take it out. So our fish lanes are very small. But I just wanted to check with
Okay. My story is always very interesting, right? I don't do things in a normal way. From when I started my business, plus minus 17 years ago, I've been in this thing for the past 17 years ago. My firstborn studied in University of Free State. I paid her fees cash from this tender thing that you're talking about. But I never had an office. And I had an office once in Limpopo because I was based this side. So an office was very important because I remember when you tender for some projects like Limpopo and Northwest, I know they like to do physical visits before they can award a tender. So I was forced to actually have an office because of that. But my house, where I've actually segmented my house into, the part of it is a business that I run. And reason being that I still have young kids. My youngest is 15. So they need me, to assist them, take them from school and so on, help them with homework. So I'm not going to be stuck in traffic trying to think that I have to get home at this time. And I get to save a lot of millions on office rental. Because remember, what I mostly do doesn't really require an office. So I've got projects with Northwest. Remember, I'm based in Gauteng. Originally, I'm from Limpopo. And one of the things that they wanted was to do a fiscal inspection. And the 7 companies that we were appointed together had very big and beautiful offices. And I got the tender when they came to my house. And there were about 6. And my table was able to accommodate them. I said, and they asked me why you're working from home. I said, you said it very right. Why am I working from home? I'm working from home because I'm a black woman who is raising children to be relevant and to be something in this community. And I'm not going to splash millions I don't have. For me to be, when you come to my office, you get coffee, you get this and this. I don't have that. I cannot afford that. So you can inspect from this office because I was able to actually make it in a way that I put it in my tender document. My address is that one. There is no law in South Africa. That's why I decided to study law as well, to be relevant, to understand the policies. I know policies. There is nothing that they can tell me. If they say that I cannot be inspected in my own home, I said, where is the police? There's no police that talk about that. The most important thing that you need to do, you must have a part where you can demonstrate that it's an office. You must have your printer, your computer, your whatever. Those are the office equipment that they want to see when they come in. So I've turned my garage into a storeroom and an office. And it's, when you see me, if we are making those video calls or Zoom meetings and so on, I'm sitting in my garage and I'm comfortable. So I can work until 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes, I invest on those things. So I don't have an office. My office is my number, is my email, is my WhatsApp. But because I've realized that I have a lot of people that need me to assist them, I decided to say, because I have a lot of things that I deal with, I've trained my daughter. She's got a consulting company because she's an accountant as well. So we have actually put together a program where we are able to capacitate the people that are starting up, especially, this CSD is a challenge, for a lot of people. So we help them. There is one guy that I thought I was going to see, Rusani. He actually approached me from the group, the ESD group, and then he said he wanted me to assist him. He talked to me privately, and then he explained to me that ever since he's been doing this, he has never got any PO. I think we were talking last month or 2 months ago, and I've never met him. And I just took him through, some pointers to say, do this and this. And he sent me a voice note, I think 3 weeks ago, very excited. He said, ever since you taught me those things, I've received 5 POs. And he wanted to come here. Maybe he didn't make it because of the number. I don't know what happened. So it's quite possible, but we have that company. It's just that, with me, when you are to come to me, unfortunately, I will be able to assist you because that's who I am. I like, giving back. But there are those days where you'll contact me and I'm not able to take your call. You can just leave a message. But when I get that moment and you are listening and I teach you stuff and I share, contacts, there's no way that you cannot make it.
Thank you so much for that generosity, yeah? So the support is there, so it's up to you to make the contact and actually take it. Yeah? So, yeah, so don't say, we didn't actually lay some foundation bricks for you. Yeah? So next time we meet you, you better have some good story to, report back on. Yeah, so we're watching this space, yeah? Yeah. Any other comments? Oh, there we go. Two gentlemen in the back. I think this is going on.
Yeah, no, indeed a comment, Chair, to Pomozo specifically, but I really more than anything to thank you, because I would imagine you were confronted with a challenge of what to present to a group of this nature. And for me personally, I'm very happy because you have presented to us on things that confront us literally on a daily basis. People like us, these are the simplest of things. So it was not a high level pitched presentation, really practical, relevant. I personally can't thank you more. And you got yourself to our level. Simpler language, simpler issues, useful stuff that I could take along with me. And I take the same goes for our colleagues. Thank you so much.
I think I made similar points earlier on, and I can assure you, I didn't pay him. Yeah. I didn't even speak to him. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Any other comments before we head for lunch? I understand now I'm 16 minutes into your savory time. Going once, going twice? Okay.
Okay, can I say something? The last thing as well, as a guideline, please handle your accounts, your business accounts well. They speak for you. Because even with those financial institutions that I mentioned, well, most of them, they're able to fund you even though you are blacklisted, right? Like Standard Bank, if you are blacklisted and you have got products with them, what they do, they get into an agreement with you to say, okay, fine, you're going to make 100,000 profit out of this deal. We are going to fund you even though you're blacklisted. But what we'll do, you give them, isn't it, they will see that maybe you are owing, maybe you've got a bond, you are in arrears, the car and credit card and so on. Then they ask you, they're so fair. They will say, out of the 100,000 that you're going to make, how much can you spread around these products that you've got, arrears on. They don't force you to pay all of them. You can just decide to say, okay, I'm going to pay 10,000 from this, spread it across this. That is the condition that they actually put on people that are blacklisted. But is it really necessary for us to be blacklisted? That's where we go back to the issue of saying, manage your finances well, because it is those days where, because now tenders, they really need capacity in terms of, even if you get that letter of support to indicate that this company will be able to fund you should you get a tender. But in some instances, like with Northwest, they want you to actually give them a letter from the bank that actually shows their rating, and the highest that they want for you to be able to get those points, you need to get level 1. You need to get that code A. If you get a B, you need to get some points somewhere else. It will be experience. With experience, they will need you to submit orders or contract to show. They will, I think if you are to get all the points on the experience side, you need to demonstrate that you have done 9 million. I think it's 6 million and above. You get all the scoring. So imagine if you have all the right documentations, but you have only made 250, thousand. You're not going to make it on the threshold. So, but remember, you grow. As I said, your spending habits, how you control your account. This thing of having personal debits coming off your business account is a no-go area. You need to have a savings account where you transfer that money so that all the debits, even if you can have problems, then at least they will bounce on that. Because with your business account now, it's very serious for you to build up for any institution to trust you. Because if you have a debit of 200 rand, that is bouncing, you are financially irresponsible. I won't even be able to help you, myself as a person. So banks are actually looking at that. But the last thing that I want you to also understand, whenever you find yourself, because we do get ourselves in spaces where really we are stuck We don't know how to come out. We are already up to here. We don't know how to come out. And those contracts that you have signed, whatever the debits and so, they are also necessary. They are bouncing and so on. Talk to your financial institution. Don't ignore those calls. I shared a story one day to say, there was a point in my life, I've never shared that story on this platform, where in the car that I was driving, the installment was like 14,000 without insurance, right? I got through serious financial challenges, and I couldn't pay the bank for over a year, and they never repossessed my car. It's not a joke. I can prove that. My interest, my arrears were up to 250,000 for my car and separately for my house. And you know what I did? Because when I was doing, this business economics that I studied in grade 11, it really assisted me. I remembered that, Norman. There was something where they taught us to say, these big businesses, they're insured against what we call bad debts. So when they offer you finance, they already insure, but they won't tell you. That's why they encourage you to take an insurance as well against that. But then if you find yourself in a space where you are unable to pay and you know your story, you write an email to the bank and say, listen, I am stuck. I don't have any invoices that I'm expecting that they will be paid. I need you to give me what we call a payment holiday. I don't know if you know about that. The law expects the financial institution to offer you that. So you can find yourself maybe for 3 months, without anything. Then the bank will not actually charge you anything. They give you that thing. But in cases where you are flatly broke and you cannot pay back, you still tell them. I remember during those days, I wrote along, I'm an emotional writer, somebody said that. Don't give me an opportunity to give you a letter or to talk to you. You will just say yes. At that time, I got what we call, when the institution wants to repossess or sell your properties, when you fail to pay, to honor the obligations, then they will approach the court. The process will go through to a point where the sheriff will be given authority to actually, so it's called a letter of execution. So once somebody brings a letter of execution at your place, you must know that you're on the last level of losing your property. One time I came back home, some years back, and I was like out of it at that time. So they came into my house. I didn't have a mortar gate. My gate was just normal. So they were able to open in my absence. Because the sheriff is able to get in our security complexes, right? So they got in. They went into my house. I would like to open the curtains. We've got those laces, right? We opened the big curtains. And they were able to peep through that space and see she has got a 2-door fridge, she have got couches, she have got this. They put them on the letter of execution. Those things, and I was owing a company where I was buying the stock from during the feeding scheme era in Limpopo. And I never negotiated with them to update them to say this was happening. When I saw that letter of execution, I'm like, and now I know I'm going to lose these things. I had a golf, my first golf, remember? It was still there and still very strong. So they also attach it, put it, give it a figure to say it will cost them this much because they want to recover what they've actually lost. And what I did, which is very powerful, that you must always remember, I looked at the lawyers because then there are lawyers that will be written on that document. I got their numbers, I called them. I explained my story, a sobbing story. And I said, this is what's happening. I told them whatever. And that person's heart was so broken. And the person ended up advising me to say, do this and this and this. And I never lost anything. They taught me to say, write a letter. Because there is this word that I like to use to say, this company is trying to, get blood from a stone. I have nothing. I've got children. So if you want me to lose my house, you are basically saying my children should become street kids. But I've been loyal to you. I've bought from you. I've been banking with you if you're a bank. For all those years that I've brought you money, this is the time that I need you most. The bank also has what we call rehabilitation process. Beside the payment holiday, they put you on rehabilitation where you are out of the debit orders. They will tell you to say, until you are right, you can just throw maybe 100 rand or whatever. I've went to a point where I've spent years without even paying any cent, and I never, in my life, nothing has ever been sold, and it doesn't mean that because I sound like I'm very knowledgeable, I have experience and so on. I've rocked, bottom in my life in a point where I did not know what to do, but I trusted God, and God always saved me. So you have got those options, but always take care of your finances. Thank you.
Thank you, Pomozo. I think we should have actually dedicated more time, maybe a whole day, for your talk, because there's so much to share. There's so many lessons that you've gathered along the way, and yeah, we really, really appreciate how you showed up today in terms of the level of content, the way it was presented, the relatability, to it, and you being open and vulnerable in terms of your personal, story. We really, really found it very, very valuable, and we cannot be thankful enough, in terms of what you've been able to present, and also being, putting, that your hand out for, if there's any other inquiries or comments or issues that people may want assistance with, being available to actually feel that. That's really, really generous of you in a very, very African spirit. I'd like to say, ra leboga, ndori mo ga maanda. Yeah. So on that note, yes, I think we can break for lunch, and then that's basically the end of our program. But please don't let the food stop conversation. So let's keep it going, and you have plenty of time to network and actually chat amongst yourself afterwards. And so I think on the last note, thank you very much for taking out time out of your very valuable days. We have all benefited, and I think from a UNISA ESD perspective, I think it's a really good feedback and reinforcement that says the program has some value and is actually impacting people's lives in a positive way. So that's really, really a good point and it's actually quite reassuring, And please do encourage your colleagues, your counterparts, in terms of, particularly those who accept the invitation to come and actually be here, because this personal interaction, in my personal opinion, it weighs a lot more than the virtual interaction. I know those who are online, there's reasons why you had to be online. Some of you didn't make the cutoff. Some of you genuinely couldn't be here. Some of you are out of the province. But if you can actually use the opportunity to be here, please do use it. And if you cannot, please do inform us so that somebody else can actually take your place, because it's actually quite a precious time that we actually get to spend together in this particular forum. Yeah. So I can say that there will be a follow-up again, just like the last time. We will communicate the timelines. We will be in contact. Please look out for those invites. And, until then, we hope that you have gainful engagements. You put some of the lessons that you've gotten here into practice, and they yield some kind of benefit for you until we actually huddle again and actually exchange notes. On that note, enjoy your lunch, and thank you very much for spending the day with us. Cheers.